happy you're all here with us. A beautiful day. And as I said in the beginning, you think back to those that were ones that were fortified this fort here, that was willing to give their lives, and we're not sure who did or what did. But then they went, well, I'll let Doris Bowden give it. Is there anybody who couldn't hear me? You couldn't hear me? All right, then. Go back to the beginning. I'll rewind you. It's nice to have you all here. And we was thinking at the beginning of those that stood fast here and was willing and ready to give their lives for their country. And Doris Bugden will tell us all about that. And then that was it right there. We're now going to have the we have color posted. Reverend Norman Goss, the compatriot of the SCR, is going to give you a
Let us pray. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of liberty that you have given us who live in this country.
But at this moment, I would just like to...
And the mayor's not here. But the mayor had a different engagement he went to, so we understand that. And now we're going to have the national anthem. Did they sing that? Oh, you put that? They didn't go by the... Oh, great. Well, I already welcomed you all, so which that went before as well. Now we're going to have those that's going to address all of us. It's 11 to 12. And so I have there's a trap door underneath the speaker, and if I go like that, he'll know it's time to close. So the first one, Congressman Frank Lobiondo, another engagement come up, and so he went to that. He was, from the beginning, he was coming, and this is the first time he's ever missed. Our county executive, Dennis Levinson, said he'll be here. Dennis Levinson's here? Oh, he's not here. He was supposed to be here. I don't know. He's somewheres anyway. He said he would be here. So we'll have John Risley. He is here. John Risley is a wonderful speaker. I've known him for many years. I've known him since I was a little boy. All right, John Risley.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming out, and thanks for sharing this time with us. We're here today because we have a love of history, and we have a great respect for those who came before us. And I can remember, as a little boy, being told by my grandmother, who was a Leeds, so I got plenty of family history handed down to me, being a Risley and the Leeds. I got it both ways. And telling me about this wonderful monument here that the DAR put up many years ago, and the history, and so on and so forth. But we're here today, too, to look back in time to see how life was about, what was it about, and what happened here in the only Revolutionary War, skirmish, whatever you want to call it, in Atlantic County. It all started back March 8th, 1778, when Lord George Germain, British Secretary of the State for the colonies, sent to General Clinton an order. And basically he told General Clinton to take as many boats and men that you shall need and clean up the pirates that were pirating the British ships from this area on up to Nova Scotia. Take as many as you need to rid the area of the rebel pirates. Now, we were pirates. They were called privateers. Privateers were an accepted part of naval warfare from the 16th and 19th centuries, and they were authorized by all significant naval powers in the world. The cost of commissioning privateers were borne by investors in the colonies. Also, in this case, the state of New Jersey. And the revenues were divided by individuals, investors, and the colonies. We raised heck with the British shipping all along the coast. We took their supplies. And in 1777, in September, to show you how involved this state was, the New Jersey General Assembly voted to reimburse Colonel Elijah Clark and Major Westcote for the building of the fort at Chestnut Neck. The British ships were brought in here and landed in Chestnut Neck, and their cargoes were transported first to warehouses at Chestnut Neck, or further up the river to a larger community called the Forks. Then the captured goods would make their way to Philadelphia by wagon to be sold. Almost 30 ships and their cargoes were sold at the Forks in Chestnut Neck in August of 1778. In September the following month, another 6 ships were sold. So as you can see, we really ticked the British off. In New York, British General Clinton decided to organize an expedition to wipe out the privateering center and to destroy the ironworks at Badstow. The expedition would become known to the British as the Egg Harbor Expedition. Now in September of that same year, September 29, 1778, we're leading up to the events that happened here, New Jersey's colonial governor Livingston became aware of the plans that the British fleet were on the move. They dispatched riders to warn the residents of the coastal communities and inform General Washington of the expected fleet movements. Major General Benedict Arnold, that's when he was still on our side, received notice of the impending attack and ordered Colonel Proctor's Pennsylvania Regiment to the Little Egg Harbor area. Because of the warnings at Chestnut Neck, ships were put to sea and warehouses were emptied, and many residents removed themselves and their household belongings. Now the British left the New York harbor, and due to a storm and heavy seas, it took them, which was 16 ships, 4.5 days from New York to arrive here on October 6th. So there must have been pretty rough seas. When the British ships arrived here around noon, local loyalists joined the British to inform them about the militia at Chestnut Neck. So as you know, there were folks here and all over this country that were still loyal to the Crown. Around 4 p.m., the militia was routed by the bayonet-wielding British regulars. There was not much they could do to defend the town. The British had cannons and many men. The defenders numbered less than 20 with no cannons whatsoever. The British Commander Collins came here and found 10 vessels at Chestnut Neck and ordered the town and all the vessels to be burned. It took all night until noon the next day. Since the British lost the element of surprise, and this is the most important part of the story, I believe, they decided not to proceed to the Forks and Badstow, as they were warned by local loyalists that Proctor's regiment with artillery were on their way. However, the great loss of life did not occur here. It occurred further up the road in Tuckerton, when on October 15th, the British Colonel Ferguson, who also patented the famous Ferguson rifle, attacked an encampment of Count Pulaski's Legion in Tuckerton. The lone sentry was killed, overpowered, and sleeping soldiers were awakened and killed. Reports of 30 to 50 soldiers were killed, with only 5 left alive. The British had a tough time navigating these waters. Very tough time. They were frustrated because of the marshes and the sandbars. The British Commander Collins had many problems with this. Many boats of his fleet were stuck. He had 16 of them in total. In fact, one was stuck so badly, the newly commissioned HMS Zebra could not be dislodged. It had to be blown up. The British then went back to New York, and their Little Egg Harbor expedition ended in New York Harbor on October 23rd, 1778. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Battle of Chestnut Neck and the involvement of our locals here was extremely important to our cause of freedom, of our separation from England. Privateering was done all along this coast, and raised Cain, quite frankly, and I could use some stronger language, with the British shipping. We were able to disrupt their supplies, and hence bring to a close a Revolutionary War. I would urge you to take a look at this book that I have here. It's called A Nest of Rebel Pirates, written by our good friend Franklin Kemp, and many of us know Franklin, who wrote this book. It has a lot of detail in it, and quite frankly, you could go on for hours about all the events and what transpired here in Atlantic County. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming and joining with us to reflect back on our county's rich heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With somebody, he'd give that up to me here. I know what he's always here. Now I want to introduce the Reverend Norman Goss, compatriot of the Sons of America Revolution.
Our friend John Risley related to us what happened here 230 years ago. So we know the what. But I think today what we may want to focus on as well is the who. Because the what without the who is just pretty impersonal. Chestnut Neck and most of what's now Atlantic County came to be populated by Quakers from the middle and south of England between 1670 and 1730. During the mid-1700s, early to mid-1700s, they started moving from the Burlington area and the Haddonfield area down to Atlantic County, and you find such names as Leeds and Smith and Adams, Giberson, Summers, Mays, Mathis, Higby, to name a few. You've heard the names before. These Quakers were farmers and fishermen, and they were a peaceful lot. They simply wanted to work and live their lives without being aggravated. But it does us well to remember that they came from England, where the English crown and the official church had persecuted them, beaten them, and imprisoned them for their religious beliefs. And so when England came along 100 years later and began to threaten their independence, their grandsons and great-grandsons became fierce, committed, guerrilla-like fighters for the freedom cause in America. Their Quaker pacifism gave way to shouts of huzzah as they did their part to win and fight for freedom. When I thought about that, I wrote down this sentence. We who live today in this area can legitimately look back at these people as the Paul Reveres, Lieutenant Lucas, and many were wounded. I found something in one of the applications that really doesn't make the history books. I think you'll like it. It occurs in 1777 in the fall. The person's name is Private John Ingersoll from Weymouth, and he relates that his group was called up and they marched to Leeds. That's about where Oyster Creek is today. And out there on the marshes, they took on 3 British sloops, armed, with probably a couple dozen cannon, and they only had 2 small cannon and 2 mortars. They destroyed one ship, and in 1835, the wreckage, they say, was still there. The British had learned a tough lesson. The lesson that they learned was that they thought they could just take over this area. They underestimated the sturdy stock at Atlantic County. Atlantic County men, they found, don't kill off so easily. What did they learn? Here's what I think they learned. Don't mess with the Rambo-like spirit of those crazy rebel farmers and fishermen in eastern Gloucester County. They can't be beaten. If you send a few soldiers after them, the Egg Harbor Guard captures them. If you sail ships past them, they steal your ships. If you send the Tories after them, the Tories just seem to disappear. If you send big troops after them, like we were told by Mr. Risley, They just simply disappear into the forests of South Jersey, only to reappear the day later after you've left. So what do we do with the story of Chestnut Neck? You know, my function in life is to be a senior pastor of a group of churches for my denomination and a seminary professor. So at the end of every sermon, if you want to call it that, my job is always to ask the question, so what? And so can I ask that question about this battle? So what? So there was a battle here. How do we wrap it up and take something home with us today that's worth thinking about? Well, first, we need to remember that these folks who fought here were hard-working, peace-loving people. Those are two great traits, then and now, ladies and gentlemen. Second, we should also remember that when they were needed, like thousands of other men and women of their time, they stood up, signed up, and took their places to defend their families, their beliefs, and their country. Their sacrifice and bravery is why we remember them today. They're also great traits for us to follow. Well, the third thing, I began to think of myself, and I thought of my own life and legacy, the one I'll leave for my grandchildren. And I have to ask myself today if I'm living my life in such a way that it will be worth remembering 100 years from now. You know, we all have a legacy to give, by the way. It's just a matter of whether it'll be worthwhile or whether it will be worth less. I close my thoughts with this. I'd like to ask you a question in your own mind. You think of what went on here, you think of what went on in the Revolutionary War, and you think of why we're here, and you think of all these people in uniform all around us. I want to ask you this. How do you think your great-grandchildren will remember you as an American, as a person? Will you be remembered with valor and value like the people of Chestnut Neck? Or will you be remembered otherwise? I leave the thought in your hand to ponder. May God bless you and your families and our nation. Thank you.
The improvements at this current monument were made by a young man from Mays Landing. You may or may not know, but to become an Eagle Scout is not just 21 merit badges and 6,600 individual skills. It's also showing leadership and creating a project that you create the plan for and execute and recruit the individuals to complete this project. The improvements you see here today, which include the flags, the stands, the trim along the walk, and the trim back here, are the product of Billy Wilkinson from Troop 254 in Mays Landing. He is currently applying for the rank of Eagle Scout. So Billy, if you would come forward. On behalf of the Carl Richard Summers chapter of the Sons of American Revolution, I'd like to present to you the Outstanding Citizenship Award for your work on this project and for your work in the Boy Scouts, and offer you my congratulations on becoming an Eagle Scout.
We'll see if he falls back and gets her if she even reminds him. She doesn't like talking. She wouldn't be. No, she wouldn't be.
A few things to say. She's got 10 minutes, and she's going to tell us about a few things. So,
The name of John Lindstrom of River Road went also to the mud and dug up 2 ribs from a ship. About 10 years ago, Mr. Ed McCarthy of River Road gave me those 2 ribs. They had been stored in someone's garage all that time, and for the last 10 years, they've been stored in my basement. At this time, I would like to present the SAR with one of those ribs for their proposed museum here. You can see it's made of oak. It has char on it from being burned. But the most interesting part, this rib here, you will still find the iron nails. It is my pleasure to turn this over to the SAR.
I saw it maybe whatever it was 10 years ago. You'll tell me if you see one of the other 2 speakers show up, right? You'll yell. Okay. Well, I don't know. I was going to say what's most important is most important, but I don't understand. I can't say that. So, nonetheless, you're all here, and we appreciate you being here. Higby, Donald Higby, come up here a minute. I just wanted to see you, and maybe they want to take a picture of you and tell us a little bit about yourself. We have the time.
Well, thank you, Norman. I have ancestors tied to the Battle of Chestnut Neck. From my lineage for the Sons of the American Revolution, I don't believe that ancestor was at Chestnut Neck, but he did belong to the Gloucester unit. The costume I'm wearing would have been something between what you would have seen in the militia or on the privateers. Something my mother made up for me this summer for the 4th of July parade in Galloway that I could wear for the church. In my side is a throwing tomahawk. Not everybody would have had one of those, but being that a lot of people didn't have regular uniforms, the tomahawk ends up stuck in the belt like it is, unsheathed. Tomahawk, sometime I'll have to tell you that story about this tomahawk, but about Chestnut Neck, you've already heard how the privateers raided the ship. I think we've seen that in the last decade. Our own Navy's kind of faced rebels of one sort or another with small vessels, so we're kind of on the other end of that, for the wrong reasons though. Something about this outfit. If a truly authentic privateer, this hat would have been tarred. The reason for tarring the hat was to make it waterproof. With a couple tips if you want to put together an outfit like this. Costuming patterns can be bought at fabric stores. The boots are made from, I've got black loafers on, and the tops I bought at a costume store for pirate boots. Pirates just wore ordinary, for the most part, wore ordinary clothes like everybody else, so it was easy to match up a couple things. Hope that helps you a little bit.
Thank you, Donald. Does everybody know why this walk don't go straight up to the monument? You all know then. Oh, you don't know. Well, the reason is, what's the name of this place? Chestnut Neck. That's the neck. But there we had that put. Also, we had an unloading platform put there for buses. We had plans ahead. We still figure there may be sightseers to come here. We're trying to get it on the map and so forth. So we're thankful for all of that. Now we're going to have a moment of silence, and you can just remain seated. A moment of silence, and then we're going to have a prayer. I'll have the closing prayer, and then we'll finish it off. So we take a moment of silence now.
Let's go.
Anybody else have anything to say? My own sweet home. God bless America, my own sweet home. Thank you very much.